Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. You're such a dick.
Welcome back, everybody,
to the lunch hour,
Game of Thrones edition.
Yeah,
we're gonna do season 7, episode
6
today.
Beyond the Wall.
We're gonna knock it out of the park.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little quickie. Hit you up with the quickie.
Now, fuck this bitch quick style.
All right, now this episode is probably, it's hard to tell. I would say put this and Spoils of War as being the best episode of the season. Granted, there was only 7 episodes.
I concur. This was a dynamite episode.
A lot of walking, some dragon shit going on, a lot of talking.
A lot of people bitch when there starts to be too much magical stuff in this series, but this is by far my favorite part of the series is the stuff with the Night King, and it's always been in the background, and now it's finally coming to the forefront.
Yep.
It's like I have a raging Game of Thrones boner.
Yeah, the Game of Throner.
A Game of Throner about this Night King battle. So,
all right, so I guess we'll just jump right in.
Sweet.
So we start off with the Magnificent 7 walking in the snow. Actually, there's like 10 of them because they got a couple of lackeys.
There's actually 5 red shirts.
So
red shirts are like disposable characters they just put in to be killed off.
Yeah.
There's the 7 main characters. And we should say that they've just set off from the wall, headed up to the mountain that's shaped like an arrowhead that the Hound had in his dream.
Yep.
And they're going to look for a Wight.
And the banter between everybody is pretty fucking cool. Brienne a fucking Tarth.
Yeah, the Hound and Tormund have a discussion about Brienne, and Tormund has a great line in there where he's fucking with Gendry.
Having to make do.
Yeah, about fucking him, and don't really know why Gendry's going up there with them. I guess they just put him in there because he's a track star, and they knew where that was going to go, but he seems very out of place in that group. North of the wall. Yeah,
and there was a really cool scene, a really cool part of the scene where Jorah and Jon Snow talk about Longclaw and everything like that. And Jorah's basically like, "Look, I defamed my family, and he gave it to you, so it's yours."
What do you think about that? Do you think Jorah really would have given up his family heirloom to Jon like that?
Well, I mean, he pretty much,
You think that goes against his character, or does that seem...
That seems legit. It seems legit to me, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Yeah, I think that it definitely fits into what, to the Jorah. But Jorah also makes a comment. He was like, keep it in your family with the kids, your kids someday. And Jon Snow kind of has this look on his face of like, like he's never thought about having kids before.
I think that's also because I think Jorah understands that this is like his last hurrah. I think he realizes he's not going to make it out of the Great War, and Jon might actually make it out. He barely escaped the grayscale.
Yeah. Thanks to my man Sam.
And his only purpose for still living was to go back to Dany and fight for her. He knows that she's never going to be in love with him. So I think he realizes this is his last hurrah, and he wants the sword to still belong to somebody out there.
It's typical, though. In the situation where you have a bunch of guys that are friends, or not necessarily friends, but a bunch of guys in the room, whenever one chick goes into the room, everybody's like, oh, hey. And then everybody, apparently in the show, like everybody's falling in love with Dany.
Well, I mean, she is she is the mother of dragons, and pretty intense character, and she's hot as fuck. So
that's true.
Tends to have an effect on men. And I think she's fucked more different people than the whores in any of the brothels and Littlefinger's brothels. I mean, think about it. She fucked
Drogo,
Dario, the slave master guy.
Slave master guy?
Yeah, in the fighting pits. The guy that took her to the fighting pits that got killed by the Sons of the Harpy. She was going to marry him because...
Oh, yeah.
To forge that alliance.
Yeah, when he was like talking about how you can't fucking take slaves away from the people, you know, that's not how life works. Well,
Dario.
After the fact, both Darios.
That's what I'm saying. The Mother of Dragons gets around.
Hell yeah, she does. But I definitely like the banter in the opening scene and the little heartfelt moment between Jorah and Jon. And then after that, we go back to Winterfell. And where Arya is telling the story about how Bran left his, like when they were training and stuff like that, Bran left his bow out there and there was one arrow in the target, so she just sat out there until she got it. And when she finally got it in, she heard the slow clapping from her dad.
She drops a bombshell on Sansa saying that
this fucking letter I found.
Sansa betrayed their father, Ned.
And at this point, she's blaming
Sansa.
Yeah, she's blaming Sansa for Ned's death, which incidentally is what started, at least in the show, started the whole fucking
demise of Littlefinger.
Yes.
But at this point, we're not aware that that's what's going on. You kind of think you're left, or at least I was left, scratching my head like, is there really a rift between these two? You know.
This goes on with the next episode, but we're kind of putting these out kind of wiggity whack. We did the season finale last week, so we're doing put this one out. It's crazy because like Bran was taught. They interviewed the guy that did Bran, Isaac Hempbright or whatever his name is. He said that there was a deleted scene that they did where Sansa kind of like goes to Bran about everything that's going on, you know, and Bran pretty much is like, look, Arya's not the one you need to be fucking with. At one point in that little conversation, Arya was like, I saw you up there on, you know, with your dress on and everything. She was like, you were there? And he was like, yeah. And then she's like, well, you didn't do anything either. You know what I'm saying? And if you go back and watch it though, like Sansa is trying, she's like, no, freaking out and shit, but Arya can't see that because Dude Man's got him all up in his chest. And then after the fact, she fucking looks up. And then Sansa kind of gets this like air about her. She's like, you know what? You should be thanking me. Because if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have Winterfell. The Knights of the Vale came because of me.
Jon lost the Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah. But she brought it all around. So, and I think that Sansa's a little scared that the Lords of the North will find out about this shit and that she, quote unquote, betrayed her family.
So I wonder if at this point, Bran, if they had already... It's weird, the whole plot against Littlefinger, because, you know, at his murder, or at his execution, they talk about throwing their aunt through the moon door and killing her husband and all that stuff. So I'm wondering do you think this plot was hatched before this conversation, or do you think this rift started between the two and then halfway through they decided to flip it on Littlefinger? Or if the whole plan all along was,
I don't know, the way that they put it out there, I kind of think that there was actually some kind of like tension at least between Arya and Sansa. You know, I think that there really was some kind of like, oh shit, I don't want to have to kill my sister, but I might have to. I think it was like that on both parts. But
I think Sansa, because she had shown tension towards Littlefinger ever since Battle of the Bastards. And
you sold me to Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, and she said, when he's talking about Cersei, you don't know Cersei like I do. And she's like, oh, you mean the woman that killed my father, mother, and brother is dangerous? Okay, thank you for your wise counsel. I think she knew she was going to kill him, but she was waiting for the next time that he tried one of his little tricks. Mm-hmm. She was going to be ready. So I think he, as soon as he started hatching this latest little scheme, she was like, all right, here we go. this is where we're going to get him at. Because she could have executed him at any time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't think. That's why I kind of think that it was. After it got to the point where Sansa found the faces and all that stuff, she was really worried about the shit. But I think somehow issue got resolved. Mainly, I'm assuming because of Bran.
Yeah, Bran. Their Google.
Yeah, Google.
Their Google. Look up search engine. Because
Bran.com.
Yeah, because at the execution, he brought up
all kinds of shit.
You held a knife to Ned's throat and said, "I told you shouldn't trust me."
Yeah. After Sansa and Arya have their little spat about Ned Stark, we go back to our Magnificent Seven on their way to find themselves a Wight.
And they see the mountain that looks like an arrowhead, so they know they're close.
This is actually where it's the Hound versus Tormund. And they start talking about Brienne, and he's like, I want to make babies with her. And he just keeps on following the Hound around. And the Hound's like, what, do you want to suck my dick? He's like, dick? Dick, cock, dick. I like it. He's like, I bet you do. And then there's another little conversation with Beric this time and Jon Snow, where he kind of...
They're discussing the Lord of Light.
Yeah,
and their role in the war.
He's like, you don't really look like your dad. You must favor your mother. And then he was saying that death is the enemy, and the enemy always wins, but you can't stop fighting. Because they're the protectors of the realms of men.
They have a little tiff with Gendry. He hasn't really run into the Brotherhood Without Banners since they sold him. So that was when he was whinging. Quit your whinging. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the Hound. He's got some of the best lines in the whole show.
And then the end of that scene is where they see the mountain from his fire.
It's shaped like an arrowhead.
Yep. And if you look at it, it's the same location as
the Children of the Forest made the Night King.
Yep.
And I told you my theory was correct, or they hinted that my theory was correct about the Night King, because, when they killed the White Walker and the Wights drop, they talk about how, well, maybe if you kill the one that turned these people, then the rest of the Wights that he turned will drop. Right. Beric says, well, we need to kill him, and then that'll get rid of everybody. Basically saying that the Night King came first.
Now, here's the real question, though. Does he get killed the same way as the White Walkers?
I don't know, but they're basically just stating one fact, and the fact is that the Night King was the first, and he's responsible for everybody.
I'll give you that one, yeah.
So that the whole thing about him, maybe he was just a White Walker, and he raised himself through the ranks to take over. No, he was the first one, so he must have been the one that the Children of the Forest plunged the obsidian into his heart, and his eyes turned blue in that vision that Bran had.
Yeah.
And but anyway, so then they all of a sudden there's a blizzard after they see the mountain, and they go fight the polar bear.
Well, not yet, because after they see the mountain, it goes to Dragonstone.
Oh, yeah.
And Dany's like, you know why I like you, Tyrion? Because you're not a hero.
Yeah, they have a good conversation.
She said that, Jon's too little for her.
And,
Tyrion like, oh, no, I didn't mean like that, Tyrion.
Tyrion has a great line about Jon looking at her longingly because he wants to have a strong military alliance with her.
Yeah. Basically, there's a little, like, who's laying traps? Maybe you don't want us to win. You really haven't.
See how
Tyrion's let me down this season.
No, this lends more credence to my theory that Tyrion's going to betray her, because they keep bringing up this issue of his loyalty. His loyalties have been brought up several times this season. So for me, that's one more check in the box for Tyrion's going to flip sides. And I think that's going to be like bigger than the Red Wedding. Like, people are going to lose their shit when Tyrion flips sides. They're just going to be like, no,
No, I hope not. I like Tyrion.
Look at your reaction.
I fucking hope not, dude. But basically, Tyrion says that he trusts Jaime, and if he can get Jaime, if he's got Jaime's word that Cersei will talk to them, then everything's good.
And Jaime's riding for the North now, so he's going to be back into contact with Tyrion. So there's more opportunity there for Tyrion to flip because he's going to have more contact with his family.
Yeah, that's true.
They're setting it up. It's going to happen.
And Tyrion says that he does believe in Dany, and he does want Dany to be the end-all.
To break the wheel.
Yeah. But Dany was like, that's cool and all, but I want the crown first before I do anything else. Then after that, this is what I got on my notes. Scene 5. Is that a fucking bear? Yep. That's a big, dead fucking bear.
Then it flips back to the Magnificent Seven and their journey through the north. And
that fucking bear.
This is so weird because on their way to that mountain that's shaped like an arrowhead, it's not snowing, there's nothing. Then there's the scene with the polar bear, and it's a blizzard. And then after the polar bear, it goes back to no snow. It's almost like that scene wasn't even filmed at
the same time.
Yeah,
it wasn't meant to be placed there.
Yeah, it was like they just filmed that scene with the bear, and then they're like, we'll just find a place to put it in.
Right. And this is where the Hound let me down, dude. Like, I mean, I get it. Fire is his thing, but come on, man. Like,
still a cool battle, though.
Yeah, like fucking Thoros, man. Come on. Help him out at least a little bit.
We lose one of the red shirts. One of the supporting cast gets
You always got to go for the healer. If anybody's played games, MMOs, or anything like that, you always go out for the healer. You got to take out the healer first.
It takes out one of the red shirts, and then it goes for the Hound. Thoros gets in the way.
Yeah, pretty much. They
light it on fire.
Thoros gets fucked up. Jorah's the one that ends up killing him with the dragon glass.
Yeah, they light it on fire, and they try hitting it with a bunch of different weapons, and nothing's killing it. And it actually bites Thoros in the chest and claws him and fucks him up while he's got him on the ground.
But apparently a flaming sword and a little bit of rum or whatever the fuck they're drinking will they cauterize the wound. Would you feel?
He just uses the straight sword.
Well, he drinks and then he pours the rum on it, and then he
he doesn't. He pours the rum on him when they're burning the body later on. He doesn't pour any rum on him while he's alive.
I could have sworn.
I promise you, he doesn't. He drinks the rum and he tries to take it away from him, and he says, "No, give me some more." And he drinks some more, and then he lights the sword. Beric lights the sword on fire and just lays it straight across his chest while it's burning. I would think if you were going to cauterize a wound too, you would let it get nice and hot and then put it out and then put it. But
the good Thoros is a G.
He can take that just shit straight flaming, and he smacks it on his chest. You'd think it light his clothes on fire the way it lit, because he touched that bear and it went up like a pile of hay. But
so that was very impressive though.
Yeah, Jorah stabbed it in the head and it dropped like a bag of rocks. The first time I watched it, I didn't realize. I was like, how in the hell did that little bitty dagger take out that thing? All those other weapons were just bouncing off of it, but they never really set up that it was one of those obsidian daggers.
They're having to move so fast with only having 7 episodes. They're having to move so fast, so there's a lot of scenes. I guarantee that when the fucking DVD collection of this season comes out, there's going to be a shit ton of deleted scenes.
I think they could have put a 30-second scene in there showing them making the weapons. That meeting in the last episode was 45 minutes.
I was okay with, but you apparently weren't. I think it really tied everything into a nice little bow.
Yeah, but they could have
for next season.
If they could have spent 30 seconds showing them building the weapons. But anyway,
and then we go back to Winterfell, and this is where Sansa's talking to Littlefinger. She's like, she's not going to kill you. He's like, yeah, well, she wouldn't kill me, but if I betrayed Jon, I think she would kill me.
Basically, it's just a ploy. He's trying to get her to send Brienne away, so that
use Brienne's oath against her.
So that nobody's there to protect Arya.
And then that's a little so-so, not too much going on there. Then we go back to our Magnificent Seven. And this is where the Hound, I think it is. No, it was Jorah. He was like, I remember when you fucking ran up in there with the flaming swords, and I thought you were the bravest person in the world. And he was like, I'm not brave.
Thoros.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not brave. I'm just drunk. Yeah.
Tormund hears something.
Yeah, and then they see the
column of dead arm. It's about 20 Army of the Dead, and they're walking down below them.
I don't think it was really that many, though. I think
it was about 20. In that column, Now, when they go to fight them, I'm not sure how many it is.
Now, this is where our theories, like of the Night King setting up Jon Snow and all of them. I think that that the Night King set them up, but you kind of think that the Magnificent Seven set the White Walkers up with the fire and everything.
Yeah, because they saw the White Walkers. They said they didn't want to see the army, the entire army, so they had to move on them quickly. So it jumps right to the White Walkers walking up and seeing a campfire.
Mm-hmm.
So if John and them didn't set that campfire for the White Walkers to find, whose campfire is that? Because it was still burning, so somebody else had to be close in that area.
I think it was Benjen, man.
Why does Benjen's dead? Why does he need a fire?
Oh, I guess that's true.
You know,
I mean, whatever.
His name is Cold Hands now, so I mean, he doesn't need a fire for anything. My theory is anyway. They never really alluded to it, but I would think because they come bawling out from behind the rock. So
what I don't understand though is if they said that kill the White Walker that turned them, then they would die. Well, they killed the White Walker, but they still got just a random one that's still alive.
Yeah, but later on in the episode, Jorah says, when they're talking about what happened, Jorah says, yeah, you killed that one White Walker, and most of the dead that were following it dropped. He didn't say all that were following it.
Okay.
He said most that were following it. So, you know, it might just be one of those things like how ants work in a colony, but every once in a while there'll be a little scraggler running around behind a line that's not really doing what the rest of the group's doing, you know? Like, what
if those are like scouts?
Yeah, like his wiring's just a little off.
And then we mentioned it in the last episode where you were talking about how, like, they got that White all tied up, and then he started screeching, and then as soon as they turn around, it's like, poof, like Army of the Dead, fucking 100,000 strong.
Yeah, they jump on the White, or Jon kills the White Walker, the rest, like the other 19 Whites all explode, and there's one White Walker left, and he's screaming. They jump on, tackle him, and something weird happens. The Hound throws himself across the White Walker, and puts his glove over the mouth to stop the screeching of the White Walker, and then he pulls his hand back real quick, and he's like, ow, and his glove is like frozen solid. So I want to know more about what happened there. Do White Walkers screaming cause things to freeze? Like, or did he bite him? Did the White Walker bite his hand?
See, that's what I couldn't decipher. You know, I couldn't tell. I mean,
look that up, see if anybody's talked about that. But the screeching brings what at first glance I thought was the dead running towards them, but it's actually the blizzard or like the storm. Like in Hard Home, back in the last season when they were doing Hard Home, before the White Walkers show up, this like, it looks like a sandstorm almost, like an avalanche of clouds that's like the blizzard that like precedes the Army of the Dead. Yeah. And Jon, as he's looking through that crack in the rocks, he sees that blizzard coming up over the mountain.
So he's fucking like, shit.
Yeah, so they're like, oh shit. So they tie up and bag the...
This is where Gendry...
Right, they tie up and bag the White Walker and take off, and Jon tells Gendry, run back and get a raven to Daenerys, run back to Eastwatch by the Sea and get Daenerys a raven and tell her to come scoop us up. And Gendry tries to leave with his hammer, and they say, no, leave the hammer because you'll be faster. Just going to slow you down. And then Gendry takes off in what can only be described as Forrest Gump-esque Trackstar run. And
my man Gendry, man, they can't keep up with the time continuity because it's so fucking...
Well, actually, I think they've worked it out. They've worked this out. They were talking about it on another podcast that all of the things could have happened in 4 days. So if Jon and them were out there on that ice island for 4 days, then there would have been enough time for Gendry to run all the way back to Eastwatch, them to get a raven and fly to Dragonstone, and Daenerys to get on her dragons and fly to them. It could all happen within 4 days.
There are very, very minuscule things that you see that kind of lend the reality that time has passed, like with the ice and stuff like that, freezing over.
The ice freezing back over.
Because it freezes over at the end, too, when they get the fucking chains.
And basically, the Army of the Dead shows up and chases them out onto this little island in the middle of the lake. And that has to be, for me anyway, one of the coolest scenes in all of the series.
Yes.
How fucking creepy is it that when they're out on that little bitty island, alone, freezing, and there's just this huge 100,000 men Army of the Dead just surrounding them, just completely stationary for days. These things are just standing there completely still.
Yeah, because they're trying to make it through. Like, at first, the Magnificent Seven, they're like, oh, let's make it to this rock. And they're like, oh, shit. The ice is about to break. So then they just book it.
Well, they stop once the ice starts cracking, and then they hear the screeching, and they look back and see the Army of the Dead, and they're just like, fuck it. And they just take off running. They'd rather fall through the ice than fight that entire army. But, man, them things are quick. That army gains on them and then runs up the sides of the lake and makes a circle around them in seconds. I mean, them things are quick.
Well, they started gaining on them, and then they started falling through. So they were like, "Oh shit, let's fall back. Let's fall back."
Once the Dead got them completely surrounded, they started bringing the circle tighter and tighter until enough of them got on the ice where it broke. The Dead started breaking through, and then they backed up to the edges and sat there for the days. And the seven fall asleep, and they lose.
Yeah, they're basically like
Thoros.
They rest in peace, Thoros. We will never forget you.
The old dirty bastard of Westeros.
And
ODB.
I was there a part of you at all that thought that Gendry wasn't going to make it? Like, did he go to Eastwatch, or did he go?
Yeah, he went to Eastwatch because that's where they left from, and that's where they left Davos. Because when Gendry got back, Davos,
he was like, Ravens, send the Ravens.
Get the mixer!
Send the Ravens, and then so Thoros dies, and then Beric makes that startling revelation. He is like, well, I don't know if it's a revelation, but he's like, if you want to kill him, that's the one you need to kill, and it's the Night King. He's like, so Beric is pretty much ready to die trying.
Okay, let me ask you this: if the Night King stays on that hill pretty much this whole battle, and when later on in a few minutes when Dany shows up with her dragons, he pulls out one of his ice spears, and we'll get into that. That's what he does to the dragon, which is one of the saddest moments of the whole series for me. I don't know why. All the characters that died didn't upset me as bad as this fucking dragon. But anyway, why couldn't the Night King sit there on that hill and just chug those ice spears at the seven that were on the island?
There's got to be some kind of connection.
Yeah, there's got to be something going on there, because if he could hit a dragon in mid-flight, he could obviously hit these dudes standing still on this little island in the middle of the thing.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering what's going on there. Is it like
some kind of connection, man?
Is there like a thing like between Joker and Batman where they don't want to kill each other? They just want to keep fighting forever? Is that what's going on with Jon and the
I don't know. You know my theory about it, that fucking Bran is the Night King.
There's no way that's possible.
Yeah, you know that's how I feel. That's what I feel, man. That's what I feel. Then we go back to Winterfell. Sansa gets the invitation from Cersei to come to the Dragon Pits so that they can talk all this shit out. But Sansa sends Brienne instead. Now, do you think that was stupid or smart?
Well, in retrospect, I think it was smart because it was all part of her plan, her ploy to make Littlefinger think that she was going along with it. And I think it served a dual purpose. I think it was a real raven and it was a real invitation. And she's like, fuck if I'm going down there. After all the horrors she faced in King's Landing, she's never going back there.
I didn't think about that.
While Cersei's there.
I didn't think about that.
So I think she was like, but she wanted somebody to go.
See, but Brienne's like, look, it's not safe for me to leave you here with Littlefinger. She's not worried about Arya. She's not worried about anybody else. She's worried about Littlefinger and Sansa.
Sansa reiterates that she's got all these guys here to protect her, so she's not really worried about Littlefinger. Obviously, now that the Stark kids are back together and they're kind of growing up, I think they're not as frail as they once were, and I think Sansa's reached a point where she's just been beaten up and beaten down enough where
she's war hardened.
She can take care of herself.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you noticed it at all, or if it even is a thing, but like Sansa, she's burned something like at the end of that scene, like a paper. Was that the invitation, or was that something else? Because it didn't look like a little raven scroll. It looked like a sheet of paper. Like she just walks in there and she's talking to Brienne, and she's like, just like throws it in the fire.
I would imagine it is the scroll because she probably doesn't want the lords to see that she got an invitation from Cersei.
After the thought of Arya.
Yeah, with all this other shit going on with Arya, because that too could be twisted into the
it could be plot. It could be the Maester's log about that particular thing too. I mean, I don't know if it is significant or not, but like you said before, they very rarely put in scenes that don't mean anything. Yeah,
totally.
We assume that the Raven has been sent to Dragonstone, and she is like, "Fuck this, I'm heading out." And Tyrion's like, "No, don't do it, don't do it. If you die, then we're all lost.
Everyone."
And she takes all 3 dragons this time.
Very cool seeing 2 of them taking off from the cliff, and
oh man,
with Tyrion's little self out there.
Kudos to the CG team, man. Kudos, like 100%.
They nailed it this season with the dragons.
And then here we go to scene 10. The fucking Hound.
The mother of all cool scenes.
The fucking Hound. That motherfucker just getting so restless, and he threw the fucking rock at him. And then
what a way to kick it off, though, man. Could it be any more intense?
Yep. Unfortunately, we have to call it quits right now.
Due to technical difficulties, but that's cool. We're going to make this a 2-part podcast.
So we can actually get down to the nitty-gritty of the fight.
Yeah, we're going to spend a whole podcast just
losing Viserion, too. Oh, my God.
Just on the rest of this episode, and maybe we'll look up a couple theories to talk about. Yeah. To add into this.
Till then.
This is Dubs Vinny. We're out.
Later.